my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be brewing the Everyday IPA from the Brooklyn Brew Shop. And like the most of you guys out there, I received this beer kit as a gift. So this will be the second time I'll be brewing this particular batch. The first time was really easy and simple. I just started homebrewing a few months ago, so really excited to continue the process and to start filming these videos. So before we get started, I want to do a quick inventory check to show you what comes within the kit. So we have our 2 packages of hops. We have Columbus hops and Chinook hops. We have our grain that we're gonna be using for the mash. We have our yeast packet, a package of sanitizer. We have our airlock, a thermometer, a racking cane, our tubing, and our glass carboy fermenter. So let's take a look at the equipment you're going to need. It's not included. We need a funnel, colander, a few pots, and a mesh strainer. So the first step is we're going to need to sanitize our equipment. So we're going to take and dissolve half of our sanitizer pack within the gallon of water that we have in this bin, and we're gonna essentially soak all of our equipment and everything that's gonna come into contact with the beer here. And so as you can see, I'm stirring up the solution with the thermometer that was provided within the packaging, and I'm gonna start putting all of the equipment into the bin and start the sanitation process. So after the sanitization process, the second step is called the mash. So during the mash, we're going to be converting the starches and converting those into sugars. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to steep our grains in the hot water, and it's basically going to be like making oatmeal or porridge. And so we want to make sure that we heat up 2.5 quarts of water, which is about 10 cups, and we want to bring that up to 160 degrees. Once you get to 160 degrees, we're going to add the grain. This is called the mashing in process. Once you pour in and add all the grains, make sure to mix gently with a spoon or spatula until the mash has a consistency of oatmeal. Make sure to add water if it's too dry or if it's too hot. The temperature is going to suddenly drop to around 150 degrees, and so we want to cook this for 60 minutes, and we want to make sure to stir this every 10 minutes, and we want to use our thermometer to take some readings from multiple locations to make sure that the pot is within 144 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So the next step is called the sparge. So if you're familiar with brewing coffee, you should have an idea of how the sparge works. So during the sparge, we're gonna take our wort, which is our unfermented beer, in the pot, and we're gonna put that through a colander and a fine mesh strainer and add that to another pot. So for the sparge, you're going to need to heat up an additional 4 quarts of water, and make sure that the water is at 170 degrees Fahrenheit or 77 degrees Celsius. So what we're going to do next is take the colander and the mesh strainer and put it back on the original pot, and we're going to take the sparge water and we're going to slowly and evenly pour the 170 degrees water over the mash to extract the remaining sugars from the grain. After you're done pouring all of the water into the mash, we're going to go back to the other pot and we're going to pour the wort and recirculate that through the grain one more time. The fourth step of the process is the boiling stage. So during this step, you're going to be bringing your wort to a low boil. We're going to be boiling the wort for 60 minutes. So this is also where we're going to introduce our hops to the mixture. So the first packaging we're going to use is the Columbus hops at the start of the boil. So we're going to put the entire package in there right now. So after we put the Columbus hops in at the start of the boil, we're going to stir the pot, and then we're going to introduce the Cascade and Chinook hops at 45 minutes into the boil, 30 minutes into the boil, 15 minutes into the boil, 5 minutes, and at 60 minutes. After we're done boiling the wort, we need to cool the wort in an ice bath, and so we need to bring down the temperature from 170 degrees to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the wort is finally cooled, we're going to grab our sanitized glass carboy fermenter, and we're going to place our strainer as well as our funnel, and we're going to pour the beer from the pot into our glass fermenter. Before we add the yeast, we want to make sure the yeast has oxygen. So the strainer helps aerate the wort and clarify the beer, as well as catch any sediment that's going to be going into the fermenter. So for this process, I had my wife help me. As you can see, she spilled a little bit of the wort, but that's totally fine. If you don't reach the 1 gallon mark within the glass fermenter, you can always add some tap water to get to that 1 gallon mark. final step is the fermentation process. So this is where we pitch our yeast. So we're going to take the entire packet of yeast and we're going to pour it into our glass fermenter. Next, we're going to make sure we sanitize our hand so we don't compromise the wort. Once we clean our hand, we want to shake the fermenter rigorously. Next, we're going to attach the sanitized screw top stopper to the glass fermenter. Then we're going to grab our sanitized tubing and we're going to put one end within the screw top stopper. Make sure to not touch the wort. Then we're gonna take either a cup or a bowl and fill it up with sanitized solution. And we're gonna take the other end of the tubing and add that to the bowl or to the cup. So during the first 3 days of the fermentation process, the fermentation is very active. So we wanna be able to release the CO2 so the bottle does not explode. After 3 days, we're gonna take out the tubing and we're gonna add the airlock. And so we're going to attach that to the top of the screw top stopper. We're going to add solution up to the fill line, and then we're going to top it off.